Hello, I would like to talk about the performing text in the Theories of Performance book by Elizabeth Bell. And one thing I'd like to discuss is that how we as humans naturally want to bring text to life or sit there and interpret text in various formats. And one thing that we do seem to use a lot is symbolism. And a big quote that I want to use from the book is that I found very powerful that kind of represents how we want to use symbolism is on page 56. At the very bottom, it was quoted from James Kinnevy. Language is like a window pane. I may throw bricks to invent my feelings about something. I may use a chunk of it to chase away an intruder. I may use it to mirror or explore reality. And I may use stained glass window pane to call attention to itself. Windows can be used expressively, persuasively, potentially, and artistically. And that shows how we use various ways of symbolism to help get our point across. And we also, according to, I believe, a Mr. Ong, I don't remember the first name, sadly, but according to Mr. Ong, there is 4 types of studies or uses, and that is or categories, I guess, of thought, which is mnemonic, which is memory, typograph or typographic, which is the mechanical production of it, and chirographic, which is mostly handwriting, actually writing it down, and I believe the last one is electronic, which is just basically this use of social media, texting, and all that fun stuff. And one thing I also like to talk about that she also does harp on is the science of criticism. And criticism is basically, the way that she says we should look at criticism. Criticism is through the way, the attitude of the poems, through how genuine or how authentic the performance of that said piece is, and whether or not it actually there's actually a link between writer and poetic, and how the message actually brought across. And she does talk about enabled pretext as well, which basically is transferring text to performance, while there is also the post-text, which is actually taking the performance and putting it into text, basically what you learned from the pretext and putting it actually into factual things to study later. And one thing that she does talk about as well, if I can find that particular subject within my book, is basically the various range of doing the said performances. And for example, there's drama, which is the domain of the producer, which is where the things actually created, formatted, and thought up of. And then you have the script, where it's actually written down, the guidelines basically to set the mood and everything. And then you got the theater, which is basically the domain of the actor, the way it's going to be brought across, the actual doing of the guidelines. And then you have the let me actually look at my book real quick. And the performance itself, which mostly involves the audience, which is the domain of the audience mostly. And the way we can take text is through understanding it via through different formats, which is I think canon, textuality, and materiality, which we can all kind of take into context here. Is that you got canon, which is if I can look at my notes real quick here, which is how it's established. Basically, if a scholar or something looks at it and sits there and says, "This is fact. This is what it is." For example, I believe she used the example of Shakespeare, how it's a canon of dramas, and then you got textuality, which is dealing with the production of the actual making, the actual doing or writing of these texts. And then you got the materiality, which is the actual item that you can read, like a play script during rehearsal. I believe is one example that she uses within the book. And another way is that the way that we interpret text, and the way we do that is through certainties, which is what's guaranteed to be there, possibilities, which is inferences that we can make, probabilities, which is stuff that we can expect or go into the text not knowing, and then the last one is distortions, which is misguidance, purposeful misguidement of some of what we were reading. And it's really, really important to actually these are apparently actually really important to sit there and look through text in that format. And the way text kind of contrasts between performances, and I have to look at my book a lot for this because this is still a little fresh, so it's not ingrained as much as the others. But it's mainly meant to illustrate. So performance actually illustrates the text, while the text you just kind of sit there and use your own imagination, which is especially helpful for those who can't read and don't know exactly how to take it. And then you can also it also uses translate text, and it actually fulfills some missing points of text. But it sometimes actually has a supplement as well. That's pretty cool. But text is a tad bit different. It just basically is portrayed something that's going to be actually missing from the performance that the text originally had in it. That's also a big problem. But overall, basically, performing text is you have to be thorough. It has to meant to be interpreted, and you got to sit there and take away what you actually need from it. And one question I can ask is, in what ways in what ways is text considered better than performances? Not that either is comparably on a ladder, but in what ways can they be interpreted and deciphered differently on a base level, if that makes any sense. Anyways, that's all I really have to say about it. And thank you so much for listening.